Ciao everyone. In today's music tech tip, I want to show you an amazing trick in order for you to speed up your workflow to the limit. Now we all know that if we have a control surface, things can get fairly easy and way more practical in a way that we actually have a control over a set amount of parameters. But many of us don't use control surfaces, even if they mix primarily in the box. So it's crucial for us to figure it out a workflow that would allow us to, per se, audition the before and after we instantiate a plugin or a sets of plugin. So I know, if we command click on a plugin, we could actually make this plugin bypassed. But what if I want to only bypass my compressor and my distortion, or only to bypass 2 EQs in a row? Now, of course, through modifier keys, I could select my tracks, hold on Shift Option, and then in this case, Command, and then click. Again, everything is cool, everything is fine, but it's too much work. It's too much to remember, and it's too much intricacy with the mouse. What if I tell you that there are, of course, some secret weapons hidden within your keyboard? As a matter of fact, today I want to teach you how to properly and effectively bypass inserts and send, and also be very selective upon what you will be bypassing and engaging back and forth. So now that we're here in Pro Tools, the first rule in order to apply bypass on and off through your keyboard is to select a range of tracks that you want to apply this command. Now in this case, I could have selected only my bass, I could have selected only my guitars, but in this case, I want to select a broader range of tracks. So I have audio tracks and aux tracks. Let's focus on inserts. Let's say I want to bypass all the inserts across my digital board. So a cool trick is to select this track and press Shift A. And as you can see right now, we could actually preview the before and after of all the inserts we have instantiated. So Shift A to toggle back on, Shift A to bypass them. Now, let's say I want to do the exact same thing, but with the sends. There is, of course, a shortcut. Let's say I want to hear how all my guitar sounds before and after we apply parallel processing, reverbs, and delay. Now, by pressing Shift Q, I have made all my sends bypassed. Shift Q again, and all my sends are back and forth. So I can Shift A and Q to bypass the before, and even press them simultaneously by holding down Shift to hear the before and after. Before, after. This is great because let's say you want to evaluate an A-B whatever you have done so far and see how far you've gotten, or if you have kind of like lost the track of how actually the track should have sounded. Right now you have this amazing shortcut that would allow you to hear the track without anything and all the tracks with everything. But I'm gonna go even more. Let's say you want to only bypass the inserts A through E. Now in this case, we're going to be using the numeric part of your alphanumeric keyboard. So we're not going to work with the numeric keypad. So if I press again, the modifier keys that you want to keep in mind is the Shift. So Shift 2 will make all my inserts from A to E bypassed. Shift 2, and I will re-engage them. Now Shift 3 will make only the insert from F to J bypassed. So I can bypass and put them back on. Shift 3. So again, Shift 2, Shift 3. Now let's say I want to only mute all the sends that go from A to E, where in many cases I have all my reverbs. Shift, guess what? 4. So right now all the sends A through E have been bypassed. Shift 4 again, and they're engaged again. Let's say I want to bypass only over here. I have my parallel processing that goes from my P bass to my P guitars. So I could only hear, and if I want only hear before and after this parallel processing, I can again shift 5 and mute all of them. Shift 5, and again we hear them back. This is a tremendous part of your workflow that if it becomes a little bit more part of your muscle memory, you're gonna just achieve great sounding mixes in no time without thinking about a lot of the technically part of the mixing. But I'm gonna add an extra layer of this shortcut. Let's say right now I want to hear my tracks with everything I've done minus EQs. Well, there is a way to remove EQs, or actually to bypass and engage back on the EQs. So by pressing Shift E, right now all the EQs have been bypassed across the spectrum of the tracks that I have selected. Shift E once again, and they're back on. Let's say now I want to hear all my tracks, but minus my dynamics. So gate, expander, compressors, limiters, you name it. You press Shift C, and in this case, this will bypass all the dynamics. See, everything got muted, so I could hear the before and after. And I'm gonna give you an extra layer. Let's say we only want to mute our effects return. Let's say right now I have a couple of delays and I have a couple of reverbs and I have some modulation. I could Shift V and bypass all the reverbs that I have on the selected tracks. Right now I only had one deverb, so I've muted that. Shift V and the deverb's back on. Let's say I want to hear the tracks without any delay plugin. So in this case I could press Shift D, and all my delays, as you can see over there, are muted. So I can Shift D and I mute it back on. And over here I also have some modulation, and sometimes I work with a lot of modulation plugins. In this case I have a flanger. If I want to mute all the modulation plugins, Shift W and you have muted all. Shift W and you have unmuted back on. So I hope you understand how powerful is the tool that you have right underneath your fingertips, and that right now, every time you're going to be mixing, instead of going crazy on mousing around and clicking around, you could easily remember the shortcuts in order to speed up your workflow. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Until the next one, ciao.